We're up against the deadline, so can you just tell our listeners what is going on the budget cliff that we're dancing on right now?
We're basically seeing if the different congressional leaders are able to strike a deal to keep the government funded. I think we're expecting at this point it will be another short term deal. They walked out of a White House meeting that lasted a little bit more than an hour yesterday. So President Biden, Speaker Johnson, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Hakeem Jeffries, and they all talked about how they thought it was a good meeting. They were able to make some progress. And basically, it seems like the idea that Speaker Johnson is leaning into right now is basically he wants to try to pass some appropriations bills, and he's basically asking for that kind of deadline to be moved slightly. So maybe a little bit later in March for some of the bills that they think are achievable. And then an even later date, March 22nd, for some of the other bills that might be even more difficult. So some of the ones that they might, just move in the short term would be Milcom VA, ag, energy and water, and transportation, essentially. And I think interior would be attached to that. So you'd have six that would be moved to March 8th, and then a few more that would be moved later on. So it would still be done in two different dates.
So, if I
But
understand what the speaker is trying to do, he wants to pass real appropriations bills, not a continuing resolution, but for the short term, would accept a CR that kept the government open for 2 or 3 weeks while they passed real appropriations bills. Is that the overview?
that's the goal, and that's what he said he wants to do. Is there's 12 appropriations bills that they used to be able to pass. I think not in my lifetime, but they would pass them individually to keep the government funded, and that has transformed over the decades into lumping them together and doing short-term, spending bills to essentially just keep largely the same kind of government spending that they have. And so he wants to do them separately, but that's also where you're going to encounter some of his own Republicans trying to attach different things that would, never succeed in the Senate. So the negotiations are going to be going on. Republicans will be pushing for certain abortion provisions. Um, you know, there's always sort of things that get attached that they're called policy riders that basically Senate Republicans are warning. If you just drop them now, we'll be able to move forward with this. But I don't, at the moment, the House has not given up on them. House GOP.
Yeah, this is not new. When I was in the Reagan administration, which is before you were born, I got saddled with writers every year at OPM, where I was the general counsel, then the deputy director, then the director. And every year I would get an appropriations bill, and it would have these little writers attached to it that were nasty little bug bites, right? They tell you what you cannot and you can do in micromanaging ways. And I'd throw my hands up, but they're the law, and that's what Congress negotiates. They're in charge of the purse. So what is there a defense bill? Is the defense appropriations moving forward? Is that one going to get done? Because that's the most important one in my eyes.
That one usually is the one where people are the most bipartisan, and it seems like it would have a pathway forward. There's still, I think, some conservatives who want to be pushing for amendments about abortion and the DOD, like you sort of saw with Senator Tuberville making that push way back when he was holding up doing the military holds. But my understanding is that one is not, you know, it's not in the first batch of the March 8th. It would be the second one, the March
And
22nd.
so, if they don't get a short term CR done to allow the 12 appropriations bills, if they don't get that done by Monday, do all but essential employees go home?
I mean, there's going to be a partial shutdown starting Saturday morning. So, and we're already sort of in a tough area where if we don't see text, Speaker Johnson has pledged that he would give his members 72 hours to review basically whatever agreement comes out if they're able to land it in time with congressional leaders. So if they, you know, it kind of is a do or die sort of today if they're able to secure that. Of course, that also the backdrop of something else that's happening, which is Hunter Biden's coming to the Hill to testify today behind closed doors. So um, lots of busy things happening this week that
Are you going to be outside the doors of the Hunter Biden testimony? Are you going to be waiting to get, shout questions at him and have him walk by without answering?
my colleague Jordan, I'm on shutdown duty. My colleague Jordan will be outside that, and it's a closed door. So With some of that, I've covered these closed door depositions. The transcript's going to be made available. I would bet what you're going to see is members from both parties running out and spinning these very different narratives of what they heard behind closed doors from this testimony. And then you'll see the initial write-ups, and then you'll see the transcript come out, and there will be some reporters being like, man, my source misled me on this one.